We are at the halfway mark of the CPL, and gentlemen, big news when it comes to Vancouver FC. They have officially terminated Afshin Ghotbi, their head coach, took over in November of 2022, and in 71 CPL games, just 16 wins. Does this come as a surprise at all to you, Ollie?
Not hugely, to be honest, because I think it was clear at the weekend against York United that, you know, their playoff hopes kind of died with that result. I think you can make an argument that they were already dead, given the one win in the first half of the season and the distance that was already there between them and the playoff positions, as well as the way York and the teams above them were playing. But that absolutely confirmed it, and it confirmed it in just embarrassing fashion, the way that game got away from them by the end. Vancouver looked like a team that was basically completely lost and completely disorganized. So they still have the Canadian Championship to play for. They'll try and redeem the season, obviously, through that competition with that semi-final. But I think this was kind of curtains on the CPL season for them, and that would have triggered them to make a change.
Yeah, it's not nice when a manager loses his job. And Afshin brought a ton of personality to the Canadian Premier League, but you need to go out and be able to win games on a week-to-week basis. Results matter, okay? I understand the process, but results matter, and the results have been nowhere near good enough. They're on pace for the fewest points in Canadian Premier League history this season, and showing very little reason to believe that they'll be able to turn things around. The cup form, getting past Cavalry and the Canadian Championship, not enough at this point. I just think we all had a good laugh about it, and we thought it was a really funny comment to make, being the best last place team in league history. But on the surface level of it, if you're part of the club, if you're part of the ownership, it's not funny at all. Like, you don't want your manager saying that, quite frankly. You want the team being able to show incremental improvement in gains. And there's a lot of young players there that are impressionable, Andy, and they need to be in a much more stable environment to me. The chopping and changing week in, week out, the lack of continuity in the team, it just simply had to stop. So it's unfortunate for Afshin. He's a very good football man. I'm sure that he's going to land on his feet somewhere. Coaching an expansion team is exceptionally difficult. That's why, look around the world, expansion teams that come in, managers typically don't last very long, because there's inevitably changes of direction and different priorities as you move forward. So we wish Afshin well, but the trajectory of this team really forced the hand of the ownership group. And I think that this probably is the decision that makes the most sense.
Ollie, you mentioned the playoffs in the CPL, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you on that. But do you wonder if also, management, ownership wanted to make a change quickly because they are still in the Can Champ? They're in the semifinals. Do they have some sort of belief that a new voice can at least help them get to the final?
Yeah, I think it was probably getting to that point where, as much as the best last place team claim was made, they are on pace to be the worst last place team. And if you measure it just in terms of points in CPL history. So like the results have been really poor. I think as well, what will have played into this, and I'm not entirely sure who, has the keys at Vancouver at times in terms of, who's making decisions with transfers and players and so on. But a lot of that has been very suspect over the past couple of years. Some of the straight swaps they've made in the league. Moses Dyer getting sent to Pacific last year, that was a disaster. Kembo Kabato went to York United, looks like a completely different player than we ever saw in Vancouver. And even some of the squad management in terms of the players they brought in, like players who have been really important to them, like Aidan O'Connor and Nicholas Mosqueda, didn't come in until the season had already started. And it's just very difficult to kind of have a stable squads that way and have a settled team for the entirety of a 28-game season. So I think there was a lot there that just wasn't working. And a fresh pair of eyes and a new man is needed at this point.
Yeah, they're in it in the Can Champ wheels. You can't deny that. I mean, whatever percentage, whatever odds you want to put in their favor in the semifinal, they're in the semifinal. They ousted Cavalry in the Can Champ, and you do wonder if that's just something that they feel they can at least hold on to turn around and say, look at what we were still able to do in a season where maybe the regular season, the CPL, wasn't all that great. The person who will lead them the rest of the way and in the Canadian Championship, former York United manager in Martin Nash. What do you make of that, Wheels?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's a long-term plan in terms of the project, but what he does represent is someone who is from the area, who has a ton of experience as a day oneer in the Canadian Premier League, first with part of Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s staff with Cavalry and York United. He knows the league. He's been around. He's been watching. He has professional experience as well. And at times like this, oftentimes you just want a steady hand. And that will give Vancouver the best chance to get something out of their season. And what I think that they can get out of this season is incremental improvement in the team among some of the young players and really having a solid go at it in terms of the Canadian Championship as well. There's still weeks. We're still weeks out from the first leg against Atletico Ottawa. So the timing of this makes sense as well. Allow Nash to come in, figure out how best to take this group forward and really have a good go of it against Atletico Ottawa. That at this point will be how their season will be judged. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they can improve the way that they play and build some momentum heading into the off season. Then after that, I think you really need to kind of assess all options. Which direction do you want to take the club? What kind of football do you want to play? You're going to have a little bit of a bigger deep dive into potential candidates who will be the best options to help this club move forward. But in terms of short-term, interim options, an individual like Martin Nash makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting another opportunity to kind of stake his claim for a head coaching job in this league, because I think he had a really difficult situation at York United. And then the Pascal brothers, since they came in, have been, I think, dramatically improved the state of that club in pretty much every different facet. But Martin Nash wasn't their choice, right? And he only had a few games at the start of that season before they decided to make that change. So I think he worked under difficult circumstances at times with outgoing owners and maybe not a lot of leadership at times at the top of the club. I think Vancouver is going to be a difficult one to inherit, but if he can be a safe pair of hands and stabilize it between now and the end of the season, maybe there's a future there as well.
Yeah, and I actually think that like once things get sorted out, just the club has made a lot of changes both on and off the field. Whoever that individual inevitably will be that's given the keys over the long term, need to advance the youth project there. I think they need to be community-based, get people excited in the community as well, and have a longer-term vision on how to take this project forward. So the foundation was laid thanks to individuals like Afshin Ghotbi. It wasn't easy, but now it's time to get it out of first gear and take it into 2, 3, 4, and start getting things going there on the West Coast.
Well, as dismal as the regular season has been, gentlemen, as mentioned, they're still in the Canadian Championship, and they will be taking on Atletico Ottawa. First leg of that semifinal going August 13th.